Welcome. This is Sermon Unscripted, where I take a look at the upcoming Sunday's passage for the lectionary in church calendar and respond to it, I guess, in some sense, on the fly for the first time, as if I was needing to write a sermon about it. So what we'll do is we'll read the passage, examine it, talk about it, and then talk about what are the conflicts and what's the invitation in it, and even what a potential sermon title could be. I have no idea what the passage is. I'm pretty sure it's the Sermon on the Mount, but let's go for it. Here we go. So we are coming up on the 6th Sunday after Epiphany. Oh, and next week is the Transfiguration. That's awesome. That's a great passage. But this week is February 12th. We're doing Matthew 5, 21 to 37. That's pretty long. Matthew 5, 21 to 37. So it's for murder, adultery, divorce. All right, let's read the passage, and then we'll give it a listen to, or we'll respond to it. Here we go. You have heard that it was said to people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. I wonder what the word for anger is right there. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, raka, is answerable to the court. But anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. I wonder what that is in Greek too. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who is taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way, or your adversary might hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and you may be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, you shall not murder, or you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than the whole body to go into hell. Therefore, it has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery, and anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Wow. This is going to be interesting. Let's take a look at the Greek interlinear. Greek interlinear Matthew 5. 21. Okay. You've heard it said. The word for being angry here is orgizomenos. Interesting. Has 8 occurrences. Irritate, provoke, angry. See this right here? Boom. Interesting. All right, let's go back. Irritate. Oh, yeah, you'll be liable to judgment. Interesting. Oh, interesting. The word for hell here is Ginan, which is probably a variant of Gehenna. Yeah, it is. Interesting. Gehenna was a valley west and south of Jerusalem, also a symbolic name for the final place of punishment of the ungodly. It's a place of punishment. Interesting. And yeah, it is the word fire, pyros, which some people have wondered if that's actually a reference to the Jeremiah tradition of Gehenna, or a valley of Gehinnom. Okay, hold on. So I needed to do some quick looking at the Greek. Well, these passages are tough. These are passages in which sometimes we want to overlook them because Jesus seems like he's very conservative. He really raises the bar about what is supposed to be a good life. And if this is the Sermon on the Mount, if this is Jesus's manifesto about how we ought to live, then it shouldn't be taken lightly. All right. But there's references here. Jesus seems to be talking about if your brother has something against you, you should go and be reconciled. And if you are looking at people lustfully, you're already doing the thing. And if you divorce someone and it doesn't have proper grounding, that can be problematic. So let's talk about each of them. Okay, so talking about anger and talking about lust, those things are things of which Jesus internalizes, the locus of the fault. It's not on the outward action, it's focusing on the inward. And what's interesting is it seems as though faith is very interested with making sure the internal and the external worlds are congruent, that they match up, that what your outward life is actually is what your inward life is. And Jesus seems to have some of his harshest words for people that their inner life does not match what they publicly present to other people. So that's interesting. Again, Jesus is very much against theatrics. But this comment about divorce, some people have wondered about Jesus's influence. Was he more influenced by Hillel or Shammai? These are two rabbis from the day that had very large looming schools of interpretation. And we probably need to say God is more against abuse than he is against divorce. There's a lot of people that have had this passage used against them, saying that you need to stay married to an abusive partner because they didn't technically cheat on you. It's like, that's not healthy. And Jesus is always in favor of whatever is healthy is holy and whatever is holy is healthy. And so we need to be careful because this type of passage can be weaponized, and that's not the intent. The intent is to hold things to their integrity. However, there also needs to be an understanding that circumstances can be very unhealthy. All right. So what's the conflict and what's the invitation? Conflict. A potential conflict might be that some of us on our worst days present a false version of ourselves externally that is holier than the internal self of who we are in reality. Does that make sense? So there has to be a matching, and that's a conflict because then you have to confront what's going on the inside, because that's the deeper reality, you know? And there probably also needs to be some level of humility when we deal with anger and when we deal with lust. There needs to be some level of honesty happening, and that's always difficult to be, first off, honest with yourself and then potentially honest with other people. It's tough being human. But what's the invitation? Well, it still seems as though there's something. The invitation might be something about self-examination, I guess. It's very difficult to have an authentic or healthy or holy spiritual life if you're not interested with being authentic. if you don't know how to name things for yourself, if you don't know how to name the world around you. I've said this phrase a number of times. I used to cling to it way more in the past, but it comes from Dr. Zhivago and the literary classic, where it talks about there's a girl who realizes that one of the main tasks of her life is to learn how to call all things by their right name. Things externally, things internally. You can't, if you can't name it, oh, what's the phrase? If you can't name it, you can't reframe it. Maybe that's it. But the idea of honesty and talking about things truthfully, internally and externally, and between us and other people, that's very difficult, because one person might be under an illusion, the other person might not, but reality always wins in the long run. In my college class I teach, I made a comment 2 weeks ago that humility is the ability to accuse yourself first. And sometimes we want to never be accused of doing something wrong. But unless we do it to ourselves first, when someone else accuses us of having done something wrong, it's jarring. We can't believe it. And then we've got to reframe how we understand ourselves and our own personal history, because, oh my gosh, I didn't know that about myself. So humility might be the invitation. The conflict is probably the desire to continue living untruthfully with an incongruence with the internal and external world. The invitation might be humility. So what might the sermon title be? Let's make it good. I can't get away from the words self-reflection and humility. Humility. Humility liberates. Humility is humane. Humility is divine. I don't know. This is making for a terrible video at the end right here. Oh, I got it. The manifesto is humility. Our manifesto is humility. It's also many other things, but let's go with that, all right? So, the manifesto is humility. Our manifesto is humility, all right? Man, this one was kind of a ride. I hope you enjoyed it, all right? So, keep up with the lectionary. Keep reading on these things for yourself, and of course, take note of the parts of passages that stand out to you. It's really interesting to read a passage, to see where the conflict is, where the invitation is to grow, and so much more. There's so many ways of reading scripture that causes us to have to rethink things in a healthy and holy way, you know? So that's all, friends. All right. I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day. Have a great week. Cheers.